May is coming.
She can go lower than I ever really thought she could. Face down. The top of your booty bigger than out your jeans, baby. Point no pants up. I like it when I see you do it better than I've ever seen it done before. But I don't wear it, drop it to the ground. But how low can you go? Lower than your mama's ever seen it in a lifetime. Never would have imagined it, not even in her right mind. Practice in front of that mirror, now you doing it on the dance floor. Mad cause I can't get with you, just show me how to dance. I may not wanna get low, so I'm posted up, kinda like a player do. But if you come to the crib, then I might show you girls a thing or two. Yeah, I think you're a superstar. With an ass like that, you gotta blow. Before you make it big, there's just one thing that I gotta
Oh,
do.
hello, guys.
Give it all a bone. How many leaves in the tank till I give it a dinner and let a brother nigga take you home? I can make this show strong. Soon as you hear this phone call, from ATL and NTAM all the way down to Joe Strong. We need a lot of record, I'll make her get lower than a Lamborghini. And if you really getting loaded, I'ma shoot a video and put it all on TV. Cause I like that French vanilla and the caramel. But when it comes to chocolate, I know you very well. Ain't just persuasion, no discrimination, I love how they seem to please them. I wanna take them Puerto Rican pecan peanut butter.
Guys, has
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? Guys! Fellas.
強い。おっと、避けながら。さあ、これは
He didn't get it.
Are we gonna do
That's a
something
lot
here?
of chip, dang.
Please.
Yeah, well, you got your wish. We got a level 3 nemesis, but I don't see if he can do anything in this situation.
No, I want a level 3, like his level 3.
Oh, you think you're gonna throw?
Just
Okay.
hit that kid with, oh, what the heck? That tentacle up your sleeve.
A little commentator's curse right there. Frank's gonna go down. And it's just.
Can we oh my god!
Commentator's curse right there. Frank's gonna go down. And it's just.
Can we oh my god!
Read
What
the
is
push
this
block really well. You can see Yamcha slap himself right there.
Can we? I mean, I know you want to kill him, but I wanted to see him get hit by the
Maybe
octopus.
next time, Neo. Maybe next time.
Oh, he's
minimum. And it's working. It's working very well. J-Dog having a lot of trouble. Oh, just says screw your shield. Just missiles through. And this is the Pandit J-Dog X Factor to kill the character he gets a hit on.
What a boring character.
Yeah, well.
He did Super X Factor, launch MMA test. Or sorry, he did a wall bounce before launch MMA.
Oh, man. Whoa, how did Nemesis pop out?
He
What
X
happened?
Factored too late. He didn't get the hard knockdown that he
Oh
wanted.
my god. More
MMA
barks
just
in the
Super.
crowd.
What a boring character.
Yeah, more barks in the crowd. Oh, whoa.
So there's the crazy J-Dog setup where he trusts you under with.
Oh, whoa.
So there's the crazy J.
More barks in the crowd. Oh, whoa.
So there's the crazy J-Dog setup where he trusts you under with crouch H, and then wall bounces you to the other side of the screen.
And he's gonna kill here.
He's does this just to guarantee that he can get 2 supers in there. Jay Frankers, yo, Jay Frankers.
I mean, the move. Okay, Nemesis is free. He's out.
Oh, he's putting them tentacles. You got hentai in the building. Oh my god.
Whoa, this kid is going extra ham. Like,
Oh!
ooh, let's go.
Japan,
Yeah.
please.
The
Reset.
reset. Is he gonna reset again? Is he gonna reset
Nah,
again?
he kill. Just kill now. He knows better.
Backs up. So
The G unit super.
Hulk is down. J-Dog has a commanding.
Eh.
Ooh. Call
Here
Nemesis.
comes boom.
Punch.
Boom.
Ooh. Call
Here
Nemesis.
comes
Hulk is down. J-Dog has a commanding.
Eh.
Ooh. Call
Here
Nemesis.
comes boom.
Punch.
Boom.
J-Dog has a commanding.
Eh.
Ooh. Call
Here
Nemesis.
comes boom.
Punch.
Boom.
J-Dog has a commanding.
Eh.
Ooh. Call
Here
Nemesis.
comes boom.
Punch.
Boom. You can see Nemesis in the little slashes.
Oh,
It's
you
really
can?
cool.
I never
Yeah,
noticed that.
it's really tight. Oh my god! And I
Out of
grab.
my air,
One
son.
more time. Keep
He
going.
gonna do it again. Hager cannot escape that setup without an assist.
The chat must be going crazy right now. Look at this combo. One more time. J-Dog.
Where my dogs at?
Personal Journal of Euphemia McLaughlin, Assistant Engineer at Imperial Exploration Company. It's been 5 weeks since we have left the familiar walls of Birmingham behind. Weeks of uncertainty, of struggle, of hope. And
Welcome to this.
Technically be changed in the
we have reached
and I
the
really
shores.
don't want to see more elimination methods locked behind ranks
We
and
had-
shit, because that's just annoying. At first I was going to give a little slack to this idea, or the idea of game balancing, because you could just rank up your character across multiple fields over the course of multiple weeks, you know, if the rivals ever get implemented. And that sounds like a good idea, except you won't know what method you want to choose for future rivals, because you won't see their schedule until like they're in front of you, at which point the whole problem of only having a week to get your stats up is just repeated. So, you know, I was gonna be nice, but then I realized, that's fucking stupid, because none of that makes any sense. This whole thing creates this suffocating feeling that like you're not playing the game's playing you. You know, you're not finding where they are and making an advantageous position. You're just like being given it to you if you have the required stats, which is fucking infuriating. You don't spend a week trailing your rival and detailing their lives and setting stuff up a day in advance for preparation. You're spending that time grinding for a mission. This wouldn't be a problem if you actually were grinding for a mission, because then it wouldn't feel like you were wasting your time training up your stats for kidnapping, at which point you would spend 3 days doing it and then essentially just have 2 days to actually complete your plan, which is just fucking stupid. The more I look into it, the more I see just how many problems there are creating a Hitman game and then slamming it together with a social sim and putting it in a high school. There's just countless issues with mechanics, game balancing, even fucking logically, which he's run into before. And I don't really think he recognizes that there's going to be problems implementing all these mechanics and getting them to work together. Or he just doesn't care. I just don't think he really knows. I'm certain that there is definitely a way to implement at least some of these mechanics and have them work in a good flow, a perfect flow, and have that all work correctly. But that's not happening in Yandere Simulator at like any stage. I could kind of let this slide if he wasn't planning on punishing you for killing all of your targets and making like the school atmosphere drop to the point where you would already fail the love confession because everyone would be so fucking depressed. And like, why treat these things like optional character growth when they're just not? It just makes the entire game this like boring and pointless assassination sandbox RPG with no reason to have RPG elements in it at the moment, and no assassination target, and no free choice to like justify having it as a sandbox, like a social sim with nothing approaching the term social or sim, with way too many mechanics that are all too vapid and pointless and are probably just going to cause more trouble than they're worth later on in the game's development. And also, he just keeps adding new mechanics because he thinks they're cool, which just ruins the whole fucking point of the game, if you could even call it a game anymore. TLDR, just make the game representative of the final version that you want. Just have a flat plane with you and Osana, and then add things on top of that. Because you can't really know where future development will lead if you don't even have any fucking idea what the current development is. If you think I'm pulling some fucking vague Chinese proverb about game design out of my ass, trust me, I'm not. This is pretty common sense. And also, he even says like he has problems with the game's balancing while he's making it. In the most recent video, at least at the time of this recording, he's talking about adding Osana and how many exploits and bugs he has to fix. And of course there is. You can't make an FPS game and then at the very last minute throw a bunch of Unity asset guns into the mix and just say, God, I hope this fucking works. He spends the video detailing how he fixed bugs and exploits around the expulsion elimination method, which has existed for 4 years, also known as the majority of the game's development, also known as one of the core mechanics that he should have already known everything about, which means he is fucked. He's straight up fucked. Everything here is just going to be a potential balancing issue. Also, one of the problems that he had with Osana and balancing her was a scheduling conflict.
Kokona's routine made her stay at school until 6 p.m. So the cutscene where the guidance counselor lectures Kokona would occur when the school day ended at 6 p.m. This would not work for Osana, because Osana's routine makes her leave school around 5:30 p.m. with Senpai.
And I don't need to say this, but I will. If Osana was in the game before you created the elimination method that specifically applies to her and no one else, maybe you wouldn't have coded in a scheduling conflict because you would have already known what Osana's schedule would have been. It is such an unbelievably simple concept. I can't believe this has flown over his head for years. Why would he do that though? That makes too much sense, dude. Fuck me. Those are just two big issues with the game that it definitely has and like just can't be fixed because it's like design philosophy and stuff. I have so many more, but this is where I can't really technically critique anything because technically nothing's finished part comes in. All of these parts that I'm going ahead with could technically be changed in the future. And by technically, I mean probably not, but who knows, maybe somebody will steal the code for Yandere Simulator and just finish it in like a year. Maybe this will all be wrong, maybe this will all be outdated. Take it with a grain of salt if you actually believe Alex is going to finish the game, and take this as gospel if you don't. Alright, let's go! Even at its furthest zoom, the camera is so close. I'm gonna have a claustrophobic panic attack, and I do not have claustrophobia. And on that point, what purpose does this camera position serve? You're so awkwardly in center frame, I just don't get why it's this close in such a strange position, while also still having the entire character in shot. Is it just so that we can see her underwear? Maybe. Who knows? It's probably that. Is he just proud of this model? Well, he probably shouldn't, because almost everything in this game so far has had some kind of tie to the Unity store at some point, such as the gym, which is still in the game. The main character's bedroom, which is still in the game. The main character, which is still in the game, and every other character in the entire game. Wowee. Oh my god. He said before that the character models will be changed, but how the fuck can you even trick yourself into believing that? Like, seriously? If they were going to be changed, they should have already been changed. Like, he's going out trying to add shit like a fucking music store in a street that shouldn't even fucking exist in the game right now. Like, it genuinely this street edition is a slap in the fucking face. A music store? Are you serious? You have animation rigs for every single character that you keep making new animations for, but yeah, I'm totally gonna change the character models and just delete all of that animation work because doing work and redoing content is what I'm known for. Yeah, bitch. No, but seriously, at this point in the game, if the character models get changed significantly to something that doesn't represent a Unity store asset and are actually unique and are actually fucking good, then I imagine the animation work will set people back by about a year. And also because modeling is not really, you know, his strong suit. I mean, nothing is his strong suit, and the fact that he has to rely on volunteers to do his 3D modeling work, I imagine any 3D modeling done for a character that has to be unique will take a long time and allow him to procrastinate even more. So, world's fucked, we're all gonna die. Despite the character models looking, trash can adjacent, they actually aren't the strangest models in the entire game. Two of the environments, the house from a cutscene a while back and the gym, as far as people know, are just basically just like a bunch of objects slammed together, which is good for single scene stuff, like if you're doing a 3D render for like a Blender thing, because you don't have to move the chairs. But for a game, that's bad. That's really bad. The more detailed an object, the longer it takes to render, and the longer it takes to load it and its textures into the game or into the scene. Now, if you're only doing like a single shot in Blender and you're just rendering a single image from like a single point of view, and you're just putting some fucking crazy lighting effects in there, you're putting some fucking anthroposcopic filtering and all that kind of shit, ambient occlusion, mad shadows, max quality and all that, takes it fucking 3 days to render, that's fine, you know, because you don't, it's not a game. You don't need to wait 3 days for a single frame of a game. It's not interactive. You have the image forever. It seems like the majority of the time that the Unity Store asset is actually a placeholder and gets changed out for a specifically made asset just for Yandere Simulator. It's because people told the original creator and they complained and they got mad. And despite that, the game looks shit. It looks bad. Like, it looks bad. Not so much graphically, which I'll get into later, but more stylistically. Because there's no theme, there's no aesthetic, no nothing. It's just a bunch of objects thrown together, which is very, very obvious when you know that all the students like use the same base model, and that base model doesn't really like fit with the trees that they spawn right next to, because the trees look like they're out of like Morrowind or something, and the characters don't. The worst part about this is if you go to the stairs that leave the school and you look out, you can see trees. I can see trees right now that stylistically and aesthetically fit the characters. What the fuck is going on? Just give me those trees. Everything here is stolen anyway. Who gives a shit? The game just has to be able to run shadows in its current state with the current version. Like it just, there's one light source. Any more, I guess, would crash the game or maybe your life. But it has to run shadows. And I'm not talking like graphically, oh, it has to look like The Witcher. No, it has to run shadows on Unity Engine. Otherwise, it's not going to run. Despite being the butt of certain jokes a while ago, Unity Engine is a really good engine right now. It is not prehistoric by any means. Real-time lighting should not halve my frame rate. Why does it do that? What? I am looking at it. I am looking at real-time lighting not halve people's frame rates. Why does it halve mine? What have you done to this game? Oh, by the way, I should also say that I recorded a lot of this footage on my capture card, even though I have a more than powerful enough CPU with more than enough RAM, with an M.2 SSD running the game, and also a graphics card that is more categorically akin to a murder weapon than it is to an actual computer part. So, I don't think it's an overhead created by me or the software. I'm pretty sure the game just sucks ass.
No, dude, what do you mean? I just need a, I just need to get a job. I need to get a real job. I just stop being a little baby. Get a real job and buy a gaming computer. Yeah, bitch.
I haven't been able to get 60 FPS for more than a second. Like, this is depressing. At the end of his most recent video, he even teases a new post-processing. And can I ask, is this a bit? Is it a joke? Is this some cruel, sick joke? These, like, post-processing effects, look shit. I don't want to... But they look like shit. Everything is hazy, over or underexposed. Like, it doesn't fucking do anything. This feels like a Unity project more than it does a game made by using Unity Engine. This feels like a $2 cheap scam artist game where they just fucking blew that shit out of proportion. Oh my god, it looks so fucking bad. Why would you ever think that this was the answer? Like, this is like a workaround solution to a problem he definitely caused. As a small addition to what I just said, I wrote this part after the parts that come after this one as a way to discuss the blog posts that I had just wrote when I wrote this, specifically the February and March ones where he's talking about harassment and lies and hatred and like us being shitty people for talking like lies about him and how those lies make him depressed and can't find the will to go on and what have you. And in a way I understand it, but more so no, I don't. While his feelings can't be invalidated, which I am not trying to do, the cause of them is very much within his control. Alex genuinely believes that all the criticism levied against him is like some mean-spirited or ill-willed bullshit, like lies that he's already disproved. And I mean, if that was the case, if like you could easily disprove all of my lies about how you're a bad programmer, why does the game run like shit? I mean, why if it's so easy to disprove, why is it not being disproved? Why does nobody believe you? To point to these lies and fake critiques, so to speak, as the reason for your depression is like it's the most guilt trippy thing I've ever fucking seen. If it was genuinely something that you couldn't control, that you had no power over, that makes total sense. That would fucking crush a lot of people's mental health. But this is a totally solvable solution. Like the power to stop this, is completely within Alex's hands. It's just like, admit that you're wrong and try and fix the game. Hand off development. Admit that you're wrong even if you don't believe it. Just, like, it's not about you anymore. It's about the fans. That's what the whole fucking thing is. As if me saying he's a bad programmer and a lazy person constitutes harassment to the point where it would cause a depressive state because of just how badly I'm lying to the public and trying to, you know, twist his words or what have you, when in the very next blog post, less than like half a month or something, like less than a month later, he specifically says he's having a skilled programmer or what have you working on getting the game from Unity Engine 2017.3 to 29.3, which would fix bugs, increase like it would decrease loading times and make the game run faster, which is essentially just saying I'm not a bad programmer or a lazy person, and saying so is really damaging my mental health because they are lies that I cannot refute to your satisfaction. You're going to keep saying them and you're going to keep spouting lies to my fans. Anyway, I'm now going to get somebody else to work on my game to fix problems caused by my code. What? This feels a lot like when pharmaceutical companies get sued for putting out a drug that, you know, kills people or something. They settle out of court, deny responsibility, and say the drug was perfectly safe. There was no problem with it. Hence why we are now taking it off the market. It's a complete contradiction, which, mind you, is not uncommon, especially with Yandere Dev. But very rarely do I see them right next to each other. And also, don't fucking kill yourself. Don't. What the hell? Just hand off development to somebody skilled and then just take a sabbatical. Who gives a shit? But yeah, after those minor issues, great game. I can't wait for it to be released. Wasn't that fun talking about video games? Oh damn, that was the first part done. But now we're talking about Alex because there's been some developments while I've been gone. Oh boy, this is what you came for. The biggest thing that has occurred in relation to me specifically since my absence would be the Hate and Shame video. The world famous Hate and Shame video where he basically just strawmans every argument, and the arguments he does represent correctly, he doesn't understand, and demeans basically everyone. Now, I didn't want the game to fail, and I still don't. Not because I want Alex to keep, draining people's wallets dry, but because I just found it very strange that children were giving him money with very little returns because of his callous and lazy management of an objectively popular project. So the following statement is not meant to be condescending in any way. This is just stating a fact. With the Hate and Shame video, Alex made quite possibly the worst decision he could have. He basically just brought drama that his fans probably didn't even know about in front of them, and then did a very poor job at dismissing the obviously misleading criticism to the point where any one of his fans may have gotten curious and then researched it and then realized he was just lying to them and gotten really fucking annoyed. And also, he did this by making a video that took time away from developing Osana, which was one of the largest criticisms that we had of him. The best decision here would have been a multi-step process, and it starts with shut the hell up. Basically, just stop, doing social media, stop using Discord, don't check the Reddit, don't respond to anything that isn't a non-essential email, stuff that volunteers are sending in, just check that and basically nothing else. Slow down the YouTube schedule, don't post monthly updates, don't post special Christmas, whatever the fuck. Just post updates when they're ready, when big updates are ready. Number 2, for those videos, drop the production value entirely, or just get an editor. Don't even put any effort into them. If you don't get an editor, just get your screen capture and just talk through some notes, be really transparent with people, don't use animations, don't use any of that shit. Just, here's what I've got working, here's what I need to do, this is what I'm having trouble with, I could get help from this person, something like that. People really like that shit because it doesn't look like you're directly lying to them or making excuses. Also, stop proposing ideas in videos. This one still applies to now. Stop proposing ideas in videos because every time he does that, the fans go, yeah, that sounds cool. And then he gets distracted and then does that and it takes 2 weeks and then Osana is dead in the water. So, yeah, stop doing that. Number 3, work fervently and exclusively on Osana. Do nothing else. Do not fix bugs. Don't even try and get new assets into the game, replacing assets. Just ignore all of that. Just get Osana working. That's what the people wanted. Get her in the game, even if it's in a broken, buggy state. Get her in the game, and then fix the bugs going on, and then add, all that kind of stuff. To show that you're listening to people, essentially. That if people want Osana, hey, maybe I should put Osana into the game. All that kind of stuff. Alex wanted Osana to not be a disappointment, but at this point, by delaying her continuously, he has built up hype that no game could ever fulfill. It's just impossible. Just throw her out unceremoniously. It doesn't matter anymore. She's going to be a disappointment no matter what happens. Just fucking kick her to the curb, get her in the game, then start making an actual good game instead of trying to be theatric with all this shit, because nobody cares about the theatrics. People want to play a good game. Surprising, I know, but that's why we do interactive experiences, to have fun. Instead, he attacked everyone, ignored all constructive criticism and suggestions. He represented me and other creators that criticized him in such ways as a stupid, shitty YouTuber with bad hair and stupid sunglasses, and then called me a gremlin. Nice work, man. I'm sure the multiple critiques I made about you and the game across 50 minutes of my time won't come up again. I'm sure nobody else will ever notice them and have problems with them. They won't cause issues down the line because I am the smartest person alive. I'm the only person that could possibly see these as issues. Nobody else will. Your fans are all so stupid, they won't notice. Ha! Fuck, dude. Oh, shit, that was so cool. I got fucking owned, dude. My god. As much as I would like to believe that I have any kind of power in this soul-crushing world in which I am but a measly tick, I don't. I'm nothing. My videos views don't really like relate that well to his Patreon dropping. They spike at different times. But his hate and shame videos release correlates extremely well with his Patreon dropping. Oops. Oh look, Yandroid Dev released another video. Hey, I've been watching him for a long time. Maybe I should support him on Patreon. Little uptick. But oh, what's this? Drama? What is he talking about, drama? I haven't heard about this. At that time, he was making around $3,500 per month with Patreon, and quite soon after, he was making $2,500. Because, of course, did he think people wouldn't get tired of him? Like they wouldn't get annoyed? Fans have been begging him to do certain things or remove certain things from the game for ages, and he just doesn't listen to them. Like, which leads me to my next point.
Watashi wa Nihonjin desu.
It's very weird that he's making a game that heavily leans into Japanese culture, customs, and way of life when he doesn't really understand any of it because he isn't Japanese and doesn't speak it. There was a very interesting post on the Yandere Simulator subreddit before he bought it. Oh, side note, he bought the subreddit. He got to it, which is great. And there's some images of him arguing his price, which he goes from, I want it for free, I'll settle for 1,000, and then, get this, arguing that 1,000 to like 2.8k, and then arguing against himself to bring that 2.8k up to 3k. Which is it? That's a Stokes moment if I've ever seen one. Holy shit, that's out of the deal, baby. Back on topic, this post was made by somebody who was like native language Japanese and also knew English, and was basically talking about how like cringe some of the names are, or like how some of them just don't sound Japanese, or nuances that we wouldn't really understand from just learning the language, like how we as English speakers know that Johnson is a last name. Like you wouldn't have Johnson Reed. That sounds kind of weird, you know? Or how certain names have gone out of fashion, like how Beatrice is an old name and hasn't been used in a while and has been replaced with Triss. The criticism was pretty scathing, not in its delivery, but in its content instead. And unfortunately, I can only view this in broken CSS because, of course, the post has been removed. In the post, she actually gave some pretty good replacement names. Like, I actually genuinely tried to help, not just doing what I do, where I'm just like, yeah, bitch, yeah, that sucks, yeah. Like, they were actually trying to give replacements, and of course, those replacements aren't in the game, and the student council members still have their first name as their fucking hair color. Also, the student council leader, who's perfect at everything, because that's how animes portray them. Her name is like something goddess, or like perfect goddess or some shit. And it's it sounds cringy as shit even for me. Luckily, he's now moved on and is now giving them actual Japanese names that just like kind of have some meaning related to what they're doing, instead of just naming them like paintbrush, the noun. Unfortunately, he hasn't done this retroactively, so there's still a bunch of students, or the majority of the students, that have really shitty names. You know, I almost complimented him there for a second, and you know, it was a fun ride. I liked it. It was fun while it lasted. Okay, so the entire game feels like it's being made by an American whose entire understanding of Japan is through the lens of anime. Because it is, and it makes everything extremely uncomfortable. I would hate to be Japanese. That would fucking suck. And before anyone says anything, yeah, I know the game is kind of meant to be that way, and it's kind of meant to make you feel uncomfortable. I'm already stretching my imagination and giving a lot of leeway. But when everything is wrong, it's kind of hard to ignore. And also, murder doesn't deter me in this life or the next. I don't fucking care. It's just really strange how there isn't even like a hint of Western anything in there. Like if you're from America, you have boundless resources and like infinite text. You can read any book that you want that's printed in English to learn about your country, learn about your culture. You can do any of that, which a Japanese person cannot do. You have infinite resources to learn about where you're from, and instead, you don't do that and make the entire game just Japanese-centric. Like, not even a Japanese-American mix, which would have been interesting, which certain animes actually do, certain anime games do as well. None of that, it's just all Japanese, which is weird because it's entirely based around a single less than accurate portrayal of a country you don't live in, with references in a language you don't understand, that implements taboo concepts that you couldn't possibly understand the nuances to without actually having experienced it or being in that country. I did a frankly ungodly amount of research just to make a single shirt, which is that one, where it's just 2 lines, it's just my name on it, it's just Kappa Kaiju, and even then, I am aware that I got something wrong. There are a few examples of this from the past, like the school layout not exactly being correct, and even now it's still a bit off. The school uniform being for the wrong level of schooling, because that's what it's like in anime, and that's the only conceivable reason why he hasn't changed it, even though people keep pointing it out. But the most egregious manifestation of this is the panty shots, and I'm gonna fucking evaporate just saying that. God! You see, because of Alex's incessant intent on adding trivial details to the game, we know the age of basically any adult character. I don't think there's a single one that we don't know the age of. But that information becomes quite sparse when you look at the students. In fact, on the official wiki, or whatever, I think it's the official wiki, then their ages aren't listed, because there's a disclaimer at the start of the game that says all characters are 18 years or over, even if there's contradicting evidence. As if that makes any of the actions in the game, like it just makes them marginally more tolerable. Oh no, my classmates have been assaulted and killed. Oh no, there's been some risque sexual stuff going on here, but it's all good because we're all 18, which means we're all legal adults in a legal system from a different country. My conscience is clear, because look at me in my middle school uniform. I'm 18. I'm 18. Say it back. Look me in the eyes and say I'm 18, alright? Say I'm 18. Say it now. Even in this tacky garb that I only bought for a skit, I'm looking damn good. This is like cosplay wear, and I could only get it from Japan, and it's very, very apparent that it wasn't made for people over 5'6". This is like the largest size, and I feel like a fucking child. You know, yeah, I can murder kids and like invade their privacy and fucking sexually assault them, but they're all 18, so my conscience is pure. There's nothing wrong with this. Also, in his most recent video, he just announced that he's selling body pillows of some of the students, and it's very weird and very messed up, and also they're appearing in quite literally like a triple X rate, an adult game. I'm desperately trying to dance around YouTube's algorithms here. Just give me a break. The characters from Yandere Simulator that are in this game aren't depicted in a lewd way like they are in the games. It is quite literally like the whole thing. Definitely not safe for any kind of consumption. Burn my eyes out, throw me in a ditch. He justifies this because, as he said before, they're 18 plus, and no, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. How are you? And it doesn't matter anyway, because the audience for Yandere Simulator are totally not children, because he said that he doesn't want children to follow this game, and he shows his YouTube demographic to prove that everyone's over the age of 18, calling it empirical evidence. Now, I don't have a problem with using YouTube analytics to prove your point, but you can't just call it quote-unquote empirical evidence and pretend like that makes it foolproof. That's not actually what empirical literally means. YouTube demographics are the most unreliable source of information you could possibly find, because people will just lie and say they're over 18 to watch 18 plus content. That's literally what it is. By the way, the second to last rival that you face is your love interest's younger sister, who doesn't want him romantically. Nice save. But instead just wants all of his attention and doesn't want him to get a girlfriend, and is listed as being 2 years behind, but only a year younger, which doesn't make any mathematical sense, but even then, at best, she's 17. Ooh, baby, yeah. Yeah, killing and killing and taking panty shots of a 17-year-old. Gonna fucking throw up. In the plain 1980s mode, you're supposed to play as Yandere-chan's mother, specifically like the same time frame that her daughter is in right now. You know, with a little bit more challenge, a little bit more lore. You know, you can't use your phone because there are no smartphones, so you can't take panty shots of students. Therefore, she's 17. Also, why the fuck do we even have this information? So when Yandere-chan's mother is doing the same thing as Yandere-chan, she was 17. But when Yandere-chan's doing it, no, she's 18, that's fine. That's, well, she's 18, what the? It's like kind of the same reason why all that lolly shit just fucks me off so much. You can put as much fine print as you want on it, but if it barks, it's a dog, and if it's in high school, it's a teenager. Like, what the fuck? You can disclaim the shit out of it. It's the intentions are pretty fucking clear. Also, this disclaimer would only serve to dispute third-party sources. It's extremely pointless if the person who wrote it also contradicts themselves. Despite it being scummy, it still makes more sense to have it and then imply they're 17. It really doesn't work when you say, don't trust what other people say, only my word is canon, and then saying they're 17. You absolute moron. I won't ever understand Japan, so while I dislike it, I can't really say I understand it. But Alex isn't from Japan, he's from America, he should know better. He should know that the age of consent shouldn't be 13. He should know that because he's grown up in a country where that isn't the case. But he just ignores that. You can't get away with that, in my opinion. You can't just make a game that's set in Japan and then just ignore the fact that you've grown up in America like all your life. That doesn't make any sense. Hey, another side note here. I know they're very common, but I keep finding stuff and I just really feel like I need to mention it. There was actually a concept that he either was working on or still is. It hasn't been implemented yet, obviously. Back in 2017, of having you open your skirt as an inventory system, a la, you know, like Resident Evil 4, except way more lewd. He polled it and there were 3 choices. Only proceed if you're going to censor them, don't use it at all, or proceed and just do whatever you want, basically the lewdest option. Now, he clearly wanted option 3. He didn't want option 1, and he certainly didn't like option 2. Except the vast majority of the people that were polled just disagreed with him. Like, just gave him answers he didn't want to hear. So as a response, in the next post, he recognized this, he mentioned it, and then spent the next 17 paragraphs basically trying to reason as to why he should keep showing a schoolgirl's panties in a video game. As if it's, like, important. Because it is important, just only to him. Not even Americans defend freedom of speech this valiantly. Like, this is actually impressive. It's just not exactly the hill I think he should die on. He argues that the reason Yandere Simulator is popular is because it's not bland, it's not being safe, and it's risque, which isn't really accurate, seeing as you can't really quantify what makes something popular without polling an entire audience, which he hasn't really done, so he's just making that up. And if anything, I would say it's more the concept of a stealth game at a school, which is interesting, rather than the fact you can sexually assault teenagers. I don't think that ranks very highly on people's to-do list. And while this poll is distinctive because of the subject matter, quite a lot of them stick out, not because of the same reasons, but because of the tone and the implications of what he's polling. People have found issue with this in the past, specifically stating that, like, there's actually no statistical value in what he's polling because they're such loaded questions. It is pretty much just like, hey, did you watch this video? Hey, are you a human? Hey, do you have empathy for other human beings? Crazy. All right, then you're a chill fan. Yeah, dude. What? That poll was one of 2 from February the 17th, 2017. The second one is actually worse. The question is not great, and the answers are even worse. Firstly, the question isn't exactly pollable. It's far more complex than that. And secondly, the answers are all extremely loaded and pretty much completely worthless. Some of them don't even contradict each other, so what's the fucking point? And he has the fucking audacity in one of the answers to say your health and happiness are most important, which I don't even think makes grammatical sense. I could be wrong, but I feel like I just read something while having a stroke. And secondly, it implies that if you don't answer that, then you're saying his health and happiness are not important. As if those two things are completely dependent on you fixing them for him. What the fuck is wrong with him? Back to the video. Having panty shots of adults who are actually teenagers in your game, to the vocal dismay of many, is... it's fucking pathetic, to be honest. You could just change it to something else. There are other ways to get around this problem, but he seems pretty intent on making himself seem like a massive goddamn creep, which is what some people may call a transition. In my honest, genuine opinion, Yandroid Dev is one of the vile human beings that has been given a platform to reach many an impressionable young fan. Now, I didn't mention stuff like this in the last video because it was stuff like him being called a pedophile, because I assumed he would give more evidence and would further refute the claims, and then he didn't. So here I am. He doesn't exactly have the the hatred and disdain that most sane people have for pedophiles, and he kind of has similar opinions to what a pedophile would have. But yeah, dude, no, it's fine. It's not their fault. He's gone on the record stating that in a discussion about the age of consent that he was just having with someone, because people do that, I guess, that he would revoke, or the idea to revoke the age of consent and instead have a sex license, which out of context is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. Now, Yandere Dev says that this conversation started because the person he was talking with seemed to believe that Yandere Simulator contains depictions of underage characters in quote-unquote sexual situations. However, there are no quote-unquote sexual situations in Yandere Simulator. Now, this seems like easy pickings, but I really feel like I should enforce the fact that he has no fucking clue what he's talking about. First off, he didn't actually dispute that they're underage, which just go back 10 minutes in the video and watch that again, you get my point. And secondly, he continuously uses the word lewd, which by definition actually includes sexual behavior. Not every definition includes the word sexual, but quite a lot of them do. Meaning a lewd situation could be reinterpreted as a sexual situation. You know what the word lewd means. Like, you watching this right now knows what this word means. You know it implies sexual situations. There's no way he doesn't. This is just a complete lie. Basically, the age of consent isn't a thing, and you take a test to find out your sexual maturity, which age of consent destroyed with facts and logic, except none of that. Because it's a dumb idea. There are quite a few studies and surveys that show when people become sexually active at certain demographics around the world and countries and all of that. But there are a few of them that actually ask, did you regret it? Like later on, did you regret all of that kind of stuff? And for a very low percentage of people at the 16 to 17 bracket, a very disproportionately high percentage of them did regret it. More so women. Wow, what a surprise. Ooh, nobody would have seen that one coming. Ah. Hi there. You probably know that the statistics are already going to agree with me, so you can skip this part if you want, but I just thought it should be, important to list my sources and all of that and show what I'm talking about. So I'll do this real quick. You can skip to this point if you just want to ignore this. I'm specifically getting my information from a study in Scotland and also a compilation, I think, or like a write-up, the Irish Study of Sexual Health and Relationship, which sources multiple different things later on, so I don't know if it's actually a study itself. In the section specifically about regret, despite not mentioning anyone below the age of 18, they do conclude that younger age groups are significantly more likely to say they should have waited longer. Women are more likely to do it across all age groups, 19% on average to 14%. Now, this is just Ireland. However, there is another study. The extent of regretted sexual intercourse among young teenagers in Scotland across sectional surveys specifically looks at teenagers around the mean age of 14 years old. Now, this thing looks ugly as shit, but it does prove a few points. Also, the numbers in the brackets are the percentages. Firstly, even at this age group, women are more likely to regret their first sexual experience and say it was too soon. While the percentage of men who say it was too soon compared to the percentage of women are comparable, the percentage of women who say it shouldn't have happened at all are significantly higher, sometimes more than double, which is really weird. Next, if the boy pressured the girl into the experience, the percentage of those who say it was too soon completely skyrockets on both genders. Also, because there's no direct comparison to any other age group, I should say, these numbers are unbelievably fucking high. Lastly, and most importantly, mind you, pretty much nothing changed the percentage of those who regretted it. It's just like the age, and that's it. That's pretty much the only thing that changes the percentage. Now, if Yandere Dev sees this and still has any brain cells left after sniffing glue off his body pillows, he may argue that I just said that the younger they are, the higher the percentages are, and 14 is a bit unrealistic. Except in this post that we're talking about, he specifically talks about the age 14. Like, that's specifically an example where the person he was discussing with asked, would this sex license thing, still a funny name, work if it was a 14-year-old that wanted to have sex with a grown man, or a grown man that wanted to have sex with a 14-year-old? And he says, well, obviously, I stick with my point, which is really weird because the numbers really don't agree with him. Also, you should check out this post. I don't know exactly how legitimate it is, but it does not read like an attention-grabbing kind of post. It does seem very genuine, in which the age 14 is mentioned again, and it is quite strange to read, so do go ahead at your own caution. If it was just this post and nothing else, I wouldn't really be showing it to you, but in compilation with what we know of him now, this doesn't really look like an out-of-character fabricated on lies. It does really seem like a continuation of the evolution of the person that he is now. It does kind of seem like repeat behavior. But surveys are for nerds. So let's just imagine a situation with two people. They're both the same age. They're both teenagers. In this situation, both people have about as much power as each other. Neither of them really know much more than the other person. Everything's very safe. It's in a controlled environment, so to speak. Now, let's take that, remove one of them, and then add a 30-year-old who can totally take advantage of the other person because there is now an insane power dynamic in his favor. Holy shit, what a great idea. Literally, the defining feature of a teenager is, God, Mom, I'm not a kid anymore, because they think that they know more than they do. Teenagers thinking that they know more than they do and then finding out through experience that they don't is like the whole purpose of being a teenager. They're fucking stupid and they're worthless and they leech off people. That's why you're a teenager, to learn that you're a fucking idiot. Thinking that you're ready, even technically knowing what you're doing, isn't always an indicator that you actually are ready. You just have to experience stuff. That's not even about what we're talking about. That's just life in general. Also, you could cheat on an exam, you degenerate bitch. Holy shit. Fucking exam. An exam instead of the age of consent. Oh, I'm gonna throw up. I could have just called him a dummy dongo brain and been done with all this because nobody in respectable society would have disagreed with me. But I chose to genuinely engage with the point and really get some statistics going and argue against it so I could have the cathartic experience of smacking him down with the might of Zeus, just to prove that he's not just wrong, he's really, really fucking wrong. Someone that used to work with him once described Yandere Simulator as a perverted spin on hatred, and I somewhat take that philosophy to Yandere Dev himself. He's a perverted spin on a weeb. And, you know, while weebs can sometimes be perverts by themselves, this is like compounding pervert. This is like pervert to the power of itself. That was a maths joke.
Those are some big busty boobies.
The only reason we know his current or past position on the age of consent is because he just posted. He gave us this as a response. This is a response to somebody calling him a pedophile. And he wrote this down on his computer and he looked at it and there was a part of his brain that just thought, yeah, this is good. This will show people that I'm not a pedophile. What? Just lie. Just say, nope, the age of consent is fine. It should be at least 18 everywhere across the globe. I don't like pedophiles. I think they suck. I hope they all go to jail. You could have just said that. You could have lied to us and it would have been fine. But instead, he decided to post this and think, yeah, people will be on my side now.
I, Other X, humbly submit a toast.
I'm really glad that I live in a world where my realm of existence, like my circle, has collided with the phrase consume the cum challenge. Like, that's a thing now. That's objective. That happened, and we can't pretend it didn't. We can't go back. We shouldn't, but we can't. The Android Dev Discord speedrun is, well, it's a thing of beauty, honestly. I think it's one of the triumphs of mankind as a whole, because where I spent almost an hour detailing or trying to conceptualize Alex's toxicity towards his fans that was apparent but vague, and also trying to show that, you know, the coding was incorrect, both how it was written and the theoretical structure of coding languages. People just posted a fucking picture on his Discord, and it proved basically everything I was trying to prove anyway. And the beauty of it is, it's faster, it's more efficient, and proves more with fewer words. It's basically the essence of speedrunning. As far as I'm aware, the world record is held by someone called Volsk, who has a sub 1 second time if you round down from below 0.5. And god damn, look at that routing. There's no exploits, there's no engine manipulation. That's just fucking routing. That's just technical skill. Pure fucking speedrunning. Despite repeating myself, I think it's important to reinforce that this entire situation or experience is completely indicative of who Alex was 1.5 years ago and who he is now. While it's not him banning those people from the Discord, he's created this echo chamber through his toxicity and just such a anti-anyone else mindset. It seems like at every impasse as perceived by him, he makes the wrong choice. This has gone on for so long that enough knowledge has spread to his general following to the point where like this isn't like ignorance anymore. You can't really feign that. This is, you would have a better time responding to criticism by throwing darts at a dartboard. You would get a higher success rate, I am certain. There are a few parts of this video that are aimed directly at Alex because spliced in between all my metaphors, analogies, jokes, and flowery language is what I believe to be genuine, like, constructive criticism. Like, genuinely trying to help. And genuine messages. So this is one of those times. The getting banned on Discord speedrun was and is not some blundering agent of chaos or the mist born from the souls of the damned that just destroys anything the wind blows them towards. It's frustration. I fail to see it as anything other than that. Like, people are just getting so fucking furious with how little is being done, how little their voices mean to the developer. It's just frustration. I didn't even give him money and I'm frustrated. You probably didn't. Most of the people watching the first video didn't either. I couldn't even possibly approach the mental state of what people would be thinking. And even if you did give him money, you couldn't possibly understand the wider community's feelings about it. The only person who could really conceptualize all of this is Alex himself. But he doesn't want to, or he just doesn't know like what's going on. I don't even think I have to use my platform to condemn these people for harassing Alex with malice intent, because in reality it's petty intent at best, and it's not really interacting with Alex at all. Honestly, if he's not getting distracted by his work, then he shouldn't even know any of these people joined. They're having fun wasting his moderator's time because he wasted theirs. Delaying crucial content, dismissing anyone that was trying to help, and being toxic to anyone who even approached a dissenting thought. All the while streaming 2 to 3 hours a day, even though he's monumentally behind on his work. Hey, do you like this unintentional recurring feature in my videos where I take so long to make them that you see me physically age throughout them? Isn't that great? I made this whole breakdown of the game showing like how much it's actually been completed thus far, using, you know, work in his previous videos and counting how long it took him to implement certain features and the weighting of those certain features, and I did this whole fucking thing before I realized the thing that I realized at the start of this video, that there is an unknown amount of balancing and bug fixes that he has to do. So all of that is entirely pointless and we can't even possibly judge when the game's going to be finished. I also spoke somewhat briefly about object-oriented programming and the pillars of it. And to just recap that really quickly, imagine a student's writing an essay and he needs 5 references. There's 2 options here. To ignore the essay part, it's not actually important. Focus on the books. Now, there's 2 options. The first one is to get those books, like buy them, and then he owns those 5 books. Or he can borrow those 5 books from a library that's special, that as soon as it gets a book, it has an infinite supply of those books. Now, if that student was the only person to ever write an essay in their entire lives, in the history of the earth, then yeah, that's fine, even like up to 2 or 3 students. Like, inefficiency is fine in small numbers, but if there's 11 people writing 11 essays, you now have 11 copies of the same book when you only actually needed 1. So the library is more complicated and it takes a long time to build, but it's more efficient in the long run. This is a vague and insultingly simplistic way of describing inheritance. It's a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot more to go into. It's actually kind of interesting, but not in this video. Now, the students in Yandere Simulator are coded so poorly, that example doesn't even do it justice. It's more like if you wanted to have 2,357 books in one library, or you wanted to have 2,357 books in 2,357 libraries. Now, the better way to do it is to have a student repository and just have each individual student grab traits that they use. Instead, he just has a single student file that just is 17,000 lines long that has every single thing an NPC could possibly have, and they just turn off the things that they aren't going to use. Now, to people, that sounds efficient, but to a computer, it's actually the complete opposite and may actually be the worst possible way to code a student, because it doesn't ignore the lines of code that it doesn't need in that 17,000 line clump. It doesn't do that. It reads like most of the lines of code and then picks out what it needs. So it's essentially like running 17,000 lines of code on every student, on every frame, which is probably why the shadows are so fucked. Now, I know I was talking about the future of the game, so I'm not bringing this up for no reason. This is actually very important for implementing rivals, which, again, he said are just iterations of each other that are harder difficulties and all that kind of stuff. Now, if he was a software engineer, or he understood the basics of the language he's programming in, that would be good. Unfortunately, you already know where this is going. If he was smart enough and had experience in this area, he could create a solution that was fast and efficient for him to do, but still gave him headroom for expansions later on. Wow, look at this. I'm actually fixing his code with basically no experience. Holy shit, this is so hard. It's crazy. Hey, do you want to know where I found this super intense code that shortens everything significantly? You'll never guess. It's called W3 Schools, also known as quite literally the starting place for pretty much everyone's first coding experience. It's like the first thing you learn. This is really easy, by the way. Also, shout out to my sister for reminding me how to use iterative loops. I completely forgot. I completely forgot how to code. As far as I'm aware, unless something completely off course has happened, the game is running in C#, which isn't the coolest language and it's not the fastest language, but it's a lot better than JavaScript, and thank fucking God it's not something like Pascal. Like, can you even code games in Pascal? Can you even code in Pascal? I fucking hate that language. Pascal can go fucking die. Unfortunately, seeing as the game still very much runs like a young paraplegic boy who's also blind and chained to an anchor at the bottom of the ocean, I very much doubt that Yandere Dev has suddenly started to understand the things that make C# better than JavaScript, like the fact C# has inheritance and JavaScript basically doesn't. Also, slight bias, I fucking hate JavaScript. I fucking hate it so much. This is what I can gather from the either leaked or ripped or stolen student.cs script thing, which I don't know if it's real, but it is too depressingly verbose for me to think otherwise. Like, this is... No one would write 17,000 lines of code as a joke. And it was at that point that I realized what I thought was happening with the students was, except it was actually worse, and I kind of wanted to gouge my eyes out, because I then found out that every single student used the same fucking script and, like, all had the same code. So there was no chance that the rivals were getting made in a timely manner. Or at all. There are 10 planned rivals, and I thought because the base map has been implemented and the core mechanics exist, and all the students exist, and they all have planned schedules and so on and so forth, that each rival implementation would be about 10%, maybe 8 to 9% of the total game's development. That would signal when it's getting ready to be completed. You could change that 10% to about 4 to 5% if he's correctly using an inheritance, meaning that the game would be like 3/4 of the way through development at this point. Except when you start to factor in code that's so janky, it more often than not doesn't work and then occasionally breaks out into a functioning game, or that it's so messy it's easy to reverse engineer it than understand what it was actually intentionally used for, or the bad practices that ignore the core principles of any coding language made after I was born, and then package that with the terrible time management and resources that just go towards superfluous things that just unbalance the game and its foundation. And I started to realize maybe the game isn't actually going to be released. I would very much like to say that the time spent developing Osana is not indicative of how much time it'll take to develop each other rival, because for any competent programmer, it wouldn't. Yandere Dev has done nothing to show that he is anything but completely incompetent. There is no chance in hell he develops this game completely in the next 3 years. So I went back and I changed my model and had a look at some other things, and in my opinion, with the final product being a fun, complete experience that does not look, feel, or run like an Xbox 360 demo, this game is maybe 6 to 10% of the way complete. In the process of researching for this video by watching Yandere Dev's content on YouTube, it started recommending me more coding channels, and go watch him, by the way. And it really made me think about the actual process of developing an indie game. Currently, by any way you want to describe it, the game is not out of the prototype stage. Like, it just isn't. So I thought, I wonder where this will put it on the development, timeline. So, I found this fun little chart on Wikipedia, and can you guess where in this little process it is? Can you guess where it comes in? No, you can't, because it's not actually on there. The first stage, which is like pre-alpha, describes a game that has a representative gameplay asset and mechanics, which I have gone to great lengths in the past hour and a half to prove that it doesn't. The first playable, so to speak, is even described as having major gameplay elements, which I would describe as the rivals, and it doesn't have them at all. Fans have been lulled into this idea that because they can play the game and they can physically see how it's changing, that it actually is moving forward at a reasonable speed. But it really isn't. The actual work being put into this, or the work time being put into this, and what you get in return, when you actually look at it, it's pretty much fuck all. This situation may remind you of early access games, which is now very synonymous with not being released, like the DayZ standalone that was in early access development for 5 years with no actual reason as to why. It was just like that. And even with the term early access being synonymous with a low quality final product and delayed releases and just lack of updates, I wouldn't even really consider Yandere Simulator an early access project, because even compared to the DayZ standalone that took 2 years to add grass, at least it has grass. We just have a flat texture of grass in Yandere Simulator. Isn't that so cool? I really get the feeling that because fans get to play these updates and they get to physically see the updates as they happen, that they're getting something. But they're fucking not. It's very much like how humans can't process the difference between a million and a billion, because we just think, oh, it's a different letter, and a million's a lot, and a billion is a lot. But in reality, a billion just fucking dwarfs a million. A million looks like a fucking penny in comparison. That is how inconceivable this kind of lack of development is. It is so hard to comprehend how little work has been done and how much there is to go. But when you compare it to any other game, it doesn't even fucking show up. The biggest thing I want people to take away from this is the difference between both Yandere Dev as a person and the state of the game, or really the lack of difference between now and 1.5 years ago. And while it is great fun to look at how Alex hasn't changed and how the game hasn't changed, I do think it's worth looking at the environment, the difference in the environment that he's developing the game in now and when he started. specifically with indie games, because in the past, not actually that long ago, indie games were pretty proportionate. They had a modest budget and they attracted a modest audience, you know, with some exceptions. However, that was 2014 and the industry was still somewhat heralding Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy as like the indie games, like the best ones, the quintessential indie games. But as the years progressed, it seemed like every 8 months we got a new the indie game to play, mostly due to the rise in power of consumer grade development tools like the Unity engine that he fucking uses. In 2014, we got Shovel Knight, which replaced Binding of Isaac and the Super Meat Boy as the indie game to play. But then in 2015, we got Ori and the Blind Forest, Undertale, 2016, Firewatch, Inside, Stardew Valley, Absolute, 2017, Hellblade, Night in the Woods, Hollow Knight, Hat in Time, Cuphead, 2018, Beat Saber, Ashen, RimWorld, The Messenger, Celeste, Deltarune, 2019, Untitled Goose Game, Risk of Rain 2, My Friend Pedro, and Disco Elysium, which is one of the greatest games I have played and undoubtedly the best written game I have ever played in my entire life. You have to check it out. You may know some of those games. You may have actually played most of those games, and you would have loved a lot of them. And every single game I just listed has started and ended development faster than Yandere Simulator. The only exception is Cuphead, because every single frame is hand animated and it's beautiful. And also they took a break, and also it took 7 years. So if Yandere Simulator does not finish development by the end of this year, it would have taken longer, which isn't just depressing, it's fucking embarrassing for him. A surprising amount of those games were made or ported to Unity engine during their development. A surprising amount of them were made either without a Kickstarter goal or for a Kickstarter goal that was actually lower than what Yandere Dev has already earned through Patreon alone, not even counting YouTube ads. A Hat in Time specifically actually started development, then was put on hold, added more members, they formed a business called Gears for Breakfast, and worked on the game from multiple different countries, all for free, until they had a presentable product to show to Kickstarter, where they asked for money, and they got it, and they worked on it, and they finished all of that from the very start of development, with the break, then Kickstarter campaign, then finished the game, quicker than Yandere Simulator, and guess what? It's one of my fucking favorite games of all time, because it's goddamn amazing. In my opinion, the best example of this is Toby Fox, which many of you know as the creator of Undertale and Deltarune. He asked for $5,000 on Kickstarter. He got $51,000 as a result, which is still less than what Yandere Dev earned in 2017 alone from Patreon. Again, not including ads. No, but that's not fair. Alex works by himself. He only uses a team of volunteers. Well, Toby worked almost exclusively on the game by himself. He only had another human touch the project in the form of art. He made the music by himself, which is fucking iconic now, and he developed the entire game on Game Maker, which I don't fucking care about your opinions on Unity Engine. Unity Engine with C# is pretty objectively more powerful than Game Maker. Now, he wasn't just recognized by Nintendo, which is essentially the grandfather of all modern video games, but he was respected by them. And Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash, one of the most influential game directors and game developers that has ever existed and probably will ever exist. Like, holy shit. The man's a fucking god, but it really does show how quickly indie games are catching up to AAA titles, whether it be graphical fidelity, or polish, or gameplay, or content richness, or post-release support. It genuinely doesn't matter. Indie games at the moment can reach far more people than any other time in their past, and the bar for entry is rapidly dropping. Also, 3 days before filming this part, I actually purchased Bright Memory. I didn't know it was on Steam. I didn't even know you could buy it at this point. But I heard so much about it, I bought it. And I fucking love it. I think it is absolutely outstanding. And the reason I'm saying this is because, as some of you may know, Bright Memory is being created by one man. That's it. The game looks fucking beautiful. It runs surprisingly well. And it is so much goddamn fun. And it was made in a different language. And it has good English. Better English than Yandere Simulator. The fucking competition is destroying him. In 2015 and 2016, Yandere Simulator was in contest with other indie games and it was lagging behind. It's 2020 now. Yandere Simulator is no longer in the competition. It barely had anything of worth 4 years ago. It has nothing left now. It barely just stopped having to share its core idea with another game, a fan game actually, which had to shut down development. And while the developer does defend Yandere Dev and Yandere Simulator, which I don't agree with, fucking obviously, if there is any way in the future that you could support this game, if you could follow its development, if it ever comes back and you think it's interesting, I would say show interest. Try and help. Because while he does defend Yandere Dev, his game is the shining fucking example of everything wrong Yandere Dev is doing. The landscape for games development is full of people just filled to the brim with passion, not just for their projects, not just for their games, but for gaming as an art form. Creating and finessing experiences for the player, pouring unbelievable amounts of care into their projects. Care that Alex doesn't fucking have. It's pretty goddamn obvious that almost everyone outside of the industry and everyone inside of the industry can do a better job than him. Like, he's not good at his job. He barely fucking cares about his job. There is barely a place for him with passion involved. With such little passion now, there's fucking nothing. There was barely a place for him 4 years ago. There's not a place for him now, and he's not releasing it now. In one of his videos, he murders, hacks apart, and wears the skin of quite a famous Miyazaki quote, which basically says in a unbelievably cringy way that a rushed Osana would be bad, but a delayed Osana would eventually be good. And I'm saying this from the most depraved, bottom-dwelling part of my heart. The game is shit. It doesn't matter. It does not fucking matter. He is delusional and he's a goddamn moron. The game is not going to be released. It just isn't. If it ever does get released, it's going to be torn apart by the most pathetic indie early access bullshit on the market. The game sucks. The only reason the game continues development is to line his fat fucking pockets, because he doesn't care if the game is released or if the game is good. He wants the game to be anime, and he wants the game to be what he wants. He doesn't fucking care if people enjoy it. He says he does, but he doesn't actually believe that. I mean, for God's sake, if he actually gave a shit about releasing a product, good or bad, just releasing a product before the majority of us fucking die, he would have handed off development to somebody else. He would have handed off development when it was handed to him on a silver fucking platter, dude. It was given to him. He was given the best possible outcome from such a shitty product, and he fucked it up. The game was and is a failure, which which is so impressive because it hasn't even fucking been released. The only reason it isn't the most prevailing case study to show what not to do during games development is because it technically hasn't finished yet. You can't call the Hindenburg the greatest disaster of all time if it's only halfway to the ground. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it greatly. It was hard enough to make the video this long. I imagine it would be quite hard to watch it all this way. Don't send hate towards him. Obviously, you already know that. You're not stupid. But don't support him if you do. And just, dear fucking God, do not support him. Please, I'm begging. I'm on my fucking knees. I'm not on my knees. You can see that. You can see me physically. But metaphorically, I'm begging. If you liked the video, like it, like with the button, press the button, and then subscribe, and then put on the bell. I don't know how to turn on the bell, but do it. Also, a quick shout out to the fellas, the boys, I'm not going to say homies, the fellas, again, that are supporting me through these dark times, even though I haven't released a video in like a month. Buy my merch if you like it, if you like any of the shirts that I've been wearing in this video. Alright, adios, bitch.